So welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight, and today Sonia Barrett is back, and we are going to talk about how is your story holding you down, or is your story holding you down? So, Sonia, if we define this story, our personal story, what would you say um, is contained in that? Is it just our experiences that we had so far, or is there more to it?
Did I do an article on that recently?
Yeah.
I might have sent one out. Oh, yeah. So is okay. Is it when you said I forgot what you said already? No, you said this about the story. Oh
Yeah,
my
is
God.
it just our experiences, or is there more swimming in the pool of our story?
Yeah. Okay. So our story is just includes a lot. And yes, it is our stories. It's the things that we do have happen in our lives, but then it's, the things that we have happen and the choices we make are built on um other stories. It could be also be inherited stories. And those stories can be a theme in our lives, a theme of a particular way that we think, how we operate, a belief about ourselves that then everything else, all these other stories sort of emerge from. Like, for example, you might feel that um people are always taking advantage of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a story right there. People are always taking advantage of me. Now, a person might not dig into that concept further, but they it's a mantra of theirs. It's a belief, and they live with that. They live by that. They don't want to check into that more. Okay, so if you feel that people are taking advantage of you, why would that be? And a lot of times they like the idea that they are then maybe good people. You see what I'm saying? It's all these sub stories. Yeah, okay, so out of that you could have I'm a good person, and people are always taking advantage of me no matter what I try to do. They take advantage of me. And then that blossoms into other things. Well, then that could also sit on a story of um low self-esteem. You know, you allow people to you allow it. If people are taking advantage of you, obviously it's because you're allowing it. And then the question would be, why are you allowing it? So it's stories with sub stories with sub stories with all these different components to it. And yeah, and they can just completely lock a person in, because everything that you do is going to be built around all these other stories, are going to be built around this core story. So yes, so the question is then, um, when a person looks at their life, and you have to ask yourself, even in the moment, like where am I right now in terms of my life and what I feel about myself, or even a particular situation that a person is experiencing right now. You have to be able to truthfully look at that situation and sort of just take it apart in the sense of how you got there. Like, how did I get here? And then sometimes then we can sort of reverse engineer it. We can kind of go backwards a little bit if we allow ourselves to actually go follow the trail back as to how it began, when, and we'll see other things that it's attached to. Then we also, I'm saying inherited stories, because inherited stories can be happening in two ways. Inherited stories, yes, you can inherit them through your genes. You can absolutely carry that in your genes. Then you can inherit them from growing up in your household, and whatever you heard, or whatever your parents, the perception that you got from your interpretation of what your parents may have said to you, maybe about a particular thing. It could be, a lot of times it's about, money, their perception of money. and also um, what you feel that you deserve or not deserve, or what you're capable of or not, or what you are worthy of having or not having, um, or what is a necessity. Or then there's a story of, when it comes to money, there are people that will say that they just want enough to get by. So then that's what you get. You just want enough to get by. Now, that could be also from a little bit of guilt in growing up as well. Maybe it's a religious thing. It's not Christian like or whatever to want more. Just that's all you want, is just the essentials, just that. So you see how we go far and wide with this. And same thing with love, relationships. You can inherit that, those things. And I work with people where I've seen that it went as far back as the grandmother, in terms of even being able to understand, why do I have all these problems with relationships, and finding out more about the grandmother's situation and love, situation, and being forced to marry somebody that she wasn't in love with, young, and ended up having all these children with the person, but always wanting to get out of it, which means that, and then having that person's mother be the last of all these children that they had, like 6 kids, all these children that she had. And during the pregnancy, we don't know if she was really disgruntled at the idea that she's stuck in this situation. She has this other child coming. I mean, just to give you idea as to how the composite of us as human beings, so many layers. It's like we're sponges, and sponges, and at the same time, recording machines, just recording everything all over the place, all kinds of things, and how it shapes us. But to become conscious of just all of this, that this really is happening, does happen, has happened, and then you start to look at your own life and look at what it is. That, do you even know what you want? Or is it, or what you think you wanted, was this really just based on some inherited, perceptions? Oh, if you become this, you're gonna make a lot of money. Or if you become that, whatever that is, my parents will be proud of me. Or if I become this, then everybody will acknowledge me as important. It just so many layers of this. So in the end, you have to ask yourself, well, what is there an authentic version of me? That is just not made up of all of these pieces. So then we go to this other level where we can say that, yeah, okay, but all of it brought me here. And the fact that I'm questioning this at this moment means that I have an innate opportunity, and it is my right to start to really decipher and break through and allow myself to see the truth of all of these beliefs, where they came from, and not founded on anything. And then we can start really making changes. And it's scary for some people, because suddenly a person can feel like suddenly they're completely in ownership of themselves, and they're not used to doing that. It's shocking. I remember when I kind of experienced that, I was like, whoa, and that goes into the religious stuff too, because even in the religious stuff, concepts, you are not worthy, and you are dependent on an external idea of some sort of higher deity that makes decisions for you, and you're just sort of there, vulnerable at the whim of whatever. So the idea then of pulling all of that yourself in and realizing, wait a second, I do have that kind of authority and power over this journey and this vehicle and all of that. Yes, you end up taking all of these ideas and stories into account. You don't have to know them all, but you realize that you've been running stories. And then you start to work as they show up, as something shows up, as I can't do that show up. You stop yourself and you go, well, wait a second, why can't I if I want to? One of the things, give people an example. Oh yeah, I'm too, it's late. It's too late for me. I'm too old. I can't go back to school. I can't do this. I'm too old. That's a story. That's just a narrative that's been spread. So if you find yourself repeating something that is collectively accepted with no really foundation for it, because you're an individual, right? If you feel capable, then do it. Give yourself permission. Now you go, wait a second, that's not even really my thought per se, but that's what is said. So how do I feel? Well, I would like to. Okay, then why don't you? Sometimes it's embarrassment, like, oh, well, maybe, people are gonna, no, what do you want to do? So it's being able to take that kind of ownership in love, in money, and just anything at all. Because this is across the board. This is not just like one thing. This is across the board that you're looking at your entire life and all these stories spread out. It's a long
Mm.
way of answering that question, but but it was hard
Yeah.
to answer it without going into all these other things.
Yeah, but I think it is important to understand that there usually is a core story, and then you have these sub stories fanning out. And most of the time, we are not even aware of it. Uh,
Basically.
yeah, we have grown up, a lot of us, and your parents, your teachers, your peers, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they tell you if you do A, B, C, then you will get D, E, F.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we stuck to that. Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
did all that. And then we had a crash landing and it did not work.
Yeah, exactly. You're still dissatisfied, even if you did it. Because I've seen people that they go ahead and they do those things, they fulfill them, but they're not fulfilled. They still feel empty. So I mean, it's just all of that to be able to just recognize that. Did you even want to do that in the first place? It's like I really didn't, but my parents wanted me to. There's a comedian here, and I can never remember his name. He is, I don't remember if he's Chinese, but he is very funny. He's so funny. He's really made a name for himself. I can't remember his name right now, but very funny. Now he was actually a doctor. He was a medical doctor, and he decided to just toss it out. I'm like, he is like a working medical doctor, and he's like, finally, it's like, but I love comedy.
Mhm.
So you jump from medical school, I mean, complete everything. You're a doctor, and then now you're doing comedy and excelling at it in movies, everywhere. I mean, you're doing really well. Yeah, but maybe 9 times out of 10, if it was probably maybe his parents, culture again, achievers, overachievers, right? Those cultures. And I've talked to other people, woman I know that follows my work from Pakistan, and yeah, everybody is like a doctor, mainly doctors, engineers, and but she didn't want to do that. So then you sort of get looked at a certain way. But to push against the grain, and even when you push against the grain of that standard story, you're still you're still feeling maybe guilt, you're still feeling unaccepted, but you continue to push against the grain. Those are crazy things though, how we do that. How we force these models on just on each other, on our kids, on people, living through our children. Um, just one second. My Zoom popped up and said that I don't know, that's weird. That I'm on with you in 5 minutes. So apparently I'm not really talking to you right now.
Yeah, okay. Trust
So
the
in,
science.
yeah, in 5 minutes, I'll be talking to you.
Okay.
But, but it's, so it's just really wild to really to look at that. It's like, my, and I probably said this on your show before, but one of the big things for me was that realization, not even to the magnitude of which I have described it now, but that moment when I just thought, how do I know I like this color because I like it? How do I know? And I just started questioning, how do I know that any of this is because I want it? And that was like, whoa, like this blank slate. And it was a little scary because I have this blank slate that I could just write on now. I could just create my own story and I could change the story. And this is the beauty of the story thing. You can change it anytime you want to. Doesn't matter what story you're running. As long as you become aware of the story and the themes attached to that story, you have the power and the ability to change it. It might take some work because especially if you've been running it for such a long time, you're got neural pathways that are wired for that story. And now, and all the sub stories that are a part of that newer pathways, all these other little pathways involved. And now you have to be persistent. You have to become persistent and pull yourself back every time you realize, whoa, no, we're not running that program. Eventually your brain gets the message and it goes, okay, that pathway eventually goes away. And now you have new pathway. But the thing with having these new neural pathways is you need to keep growing them. You need to keep expanding on them. Sure, you can have this story, but how can I expand on it? How can I give it movement and so that I grow my brain? So how can I do that? It's all about growing your brain. And when we're stuck in these stories, and the stories are just within the confines of a box, you limit yourself in a way that you aren't really growing your brain because there's nothing new coming in. And when I say growing your brain, meaning producing, um, new neurons in that part of the brain, in the hippocampus, being able to do that. Um, which this first they were wondering, as people get older, in adults anyway, do they produce do they grow their brain? Do they continue to produce neurons? And at first they thought no, but then they realized that they do at a very small amount. But if you are doing new things that are really stimulating growth, then you will start to produce more, which is why they encourage seniors to take up different things to do because for the health of the brain. And you think about that, like that the health of the brain requires me to be learning something new and engaging and growing. That lets you know that the journey is really about that. The journey is about that. And when you narrow it and when you stop, you're basically just telling yourself it's okay to start shutting down. So gradually people start to shut down, they start to get sicker. A lot of times that's what happens. Dementia is on the rise, those kinds of things, Alzheimer's. It's increasing. And what does it have to do with? It has to do with memory. And and all of these areas of the brain that are connected with that. So there is a lot to be said about the stories if we are able to look at this idea from just even a scientific point of view. You have to have new things coming in. You keep running that story, your brain eventually, nature has designed it that way. If you're not, you become purposeless. There's like, you become pointless. What is your reason for even being here? So then, yeah, then you start to shut down because that's instructions to start shutting down. We are here to expand, to grow. And if you look at it You see that that makes sense. When you're born, what do? You begin to grow and you begin to learn new things and you go on and you do different things in life. And then if you fall into the story of, well, I'm at this age now, I'm in my sunset years, and then that's you start to like you start fading away. You start fading because the story that you attach to that is that now I'm in a period of life where my body is going to break down and things are going to fall apart. And you accept that. And oh yeah, I've worked. I don't want to learn anything. I just want to kick back and relax in this chair. Well, nature, nothing, you're pointless. Nature, there's no reason for you to continue to be here. You're contributing nothing to the overall expansion of a reality experience. Think about it, right? Because this thing we call life that pulses, everything pulses in the cosmos. Everything is just pulsing life of in some form or the other. And you came here into this body to experience, to expand your unique experience. We could be doing the same thing, but our experience is going to be a little bit different. You're uniquely you, I'm uniquely me. We're still part of that one essence, but we come here in these the one undefinable has this imagined what should I say, this imagined then setup where we appear as individuals. And in that idea, it's allowing many different aspects of imagination and potentiality and experiencing to really happen. And that is so very important. So if you come here to do that, and then you're only here like a short time, because people start saying that, oh, they're 65, they're 70, you're 80. Oh, cut off like 80. Oh, no, no, no. Well, oh my, some people 75, they're like, yeah, 80. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, then okay, then you serve no real purpose after that. Unless you give yourself purpose, your brain has no reason because you're giving it no reason. Your brain doesn't decide anything, it takes instructions from you. The mind, the information coming from the mind is what it processes and what it takes as its cue as to what you want to do. And if your mind is built on what? Those stories that are limiting and the stories you've been running for a while about yourself, about how other people and how you perceive the world, and if those continue to be the same stories and they're narrow, then yeah, you just gonna there's just no reason. It's gonna shut you down.
Yeah. That reminds me, our very first interview that we ever had. I
Mm.
remember I told you the story when I had a conversation with a nurse, and she had to check all her boxes, and she wanted to know what kind of medications I'm
Oh,
taking, and
yeah.
I was always no, 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 no.
It's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on with you? Yeah,
And
yeah.
and then, once she had finished her questionnaire, and in between, at one point, I said, "Yeah, I take an aspirin once in a while."
Oh my God. Yeah, once in a while. This is completely
So,
unheard of,
yeah, so
especially after a certain age, especially when you're a certain age, you should immediately, you're gonna need medication.
yeah, exactly. And
Crazy.
and I don't believe that story, but I
Mm-mm.
could tell in that very moment
She was
that
uncomfortable.
yeah, she was uncomfortable as well, and
Mm.
she looked at me a little bit as if I had green slime coming out of my nose, something very exotic, you know. And
Oh my gosh.
and then she put the questionnaire away, and then she looked up and she said, "That is very rare at your age."
I know. It's like, what does that even mean? It's very rare at your age. It's like you haven't even begun yet to live. And I find that so interesting. It's like you haven't even begun yet, but because they're part of that narrative, and it's expected. And the more that narrative runs, is the more that people buy into it. But they don't realize that that's the only reason why that narrative seems to hold true, is because they get people to believe it. And so people start living up against it. And then that's very confirming and affirming that that is true. But there are people that don't live the narrative and, are living beyond that. And I don't remember what, I know that we are technically, I don't know, we're somewhere around the same age range or something. I think so when we talk. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But
I will be 67 in
okay,
December.
all right. So yeah, okay. So you've got a couple of years on me. Yeah, 64 now, and April 65. Now, that is not for me, like it makes, like there's nothing attached to that. Like it makes no sense to me, right? From the perspective of how that is perceived. For me, I'm just doing. And I
Mhm.
and I feel just as amazing. Probably I might even feel more amazing because I don't have the stress of not knowing what I'm doing and think I know what I'm doing in my 20s. Right? And then you have to make all these crazy mistakes and decisions in, in those years, right? So, no, I encourage everybody, all my clients. I'm like, you can stop doing that now. Just toss it aside. What do you want to do? You feel good? You feel well enough? Do okay, then do that, because that is what's going to keep you healthy. The doing, the imagination, the joy of doing and living being is what's going to do it. When I interviewed Ronaldo LaPallo years ago, and I think I've told you this, when he had just his 111th birthday was the day before I had interviewed him, and I couldn't stay. This is when I was doing the film, because his birthday party was that night, and Bernardo was just amazing. Bernardo said, he says, the only thing you should focus on is living. And he didn't know any of the stuff that I'm talking about, but he said that's the only thing you focus on is living. And that's it. You do what people do when they're alive. You don't focus on dying, you focus on living. And he lived to 114. And he still, and his daughter said, no, he did the same stuff he did every day. And he just slept away. He didn't have a heart attack, nothing. He just one morning he slept away. And he would walk his a little under 2 miles every day. He would get out and walk. His mind was sharp. He didn't have any memory issues. And when you're at that time, when you're 111, you've got quite a lot of information, and you've seen a lot. That's a journey there that
Mm.
you've taken. That's quite a bit. So when we are talking this nonsense about, well, you're in your 60s, this guy didn't understand the majority of what I understand at this point. And he was 114, functional, not 114 or 111 in a chair looking like this. No, Bernardo was still doing workshops and talks. He was working on his second book. He's still, you can find him still on YouTube, the videos on there of him showing how to make his fruit salad. He was 109 on that one when he was showing how to make his fruit salad. Hands look great because he says he only used olive oil. He says his face is as smooth as a baby's bottom, he used to say. But he used olive oil on his feet and all of that because his dad told him. And one of the things he said his dad told him, because he was an herbalist, and I think so was his dad. And he said his dad told him one thing that he always held to him, that he could live as long as he wanted to. And yeah, his dad told him that as a kid. Tell you how your parents are influential. And he told him that, and he believed it. Now, adding had he had more of this other information, Yeah, you just probably just keep going. But it was just incredible to see that potential. Now, then we go back to our all of these different biblical scriptures, no matter which one we go to, they all have some information about people who were living way longer. They all
Yeah.
do. But their story was different at one time. It was normal. It was normal for somebody to be a few hundred years old. Obviously, our environment has changed. All these different conditions have changed. But more than anything else, the narrative, the narrative changed with us. And what our understanding became, um, of what we could be, as opposed to maybe thinking, you know, what I think we are now is definitely changed, because that's what happens. And whenever we come in, whatever point we come in life, we are going to see that as the reality, as true. But then you think about the kids that are being born now. For those of us who remember a rotary telephone,
Hmm.
and for them it's like, what? They won't know how fast, like you and I came in at a time where technology was going to rapidly move, right? We happened to come in at that particular time. Think about, if that is the case, that they won't know a lot of what we saw. It will not be a reality for them. What's going to be true for them is the time frame that they were born in and what they were exposed to. And same thing with us. We don't know what we don't know, right? We only know what we're told when we come in, of what we can be and what is possible. And it just keeps happening like that. And to me, I found that very fascinating. So, with you, 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, I'm going based on a story that has been told to me. And also, yes, you're carrying the data and the history of everything, of the planets, everything. But you're also carrying the data and the history of your tribe, meaning whatever you're the descendant, you're the result at this time, um, of the people that you're connected with, tribes, groups of people going way back. And whatever some of those people dealt with and experienced in terms of survival and so on, yes, we've inherited all of that, because we are libraries. We're just carrying all this information. We can utilize it as a powerful force at the same time too. If we get it, it's like, okay, they had the skills to survive, right? Or we can take that we're constantly in survival, or we can use it as, I have the skills and the power to survive in a different way, in a strengthening way. So it's, again, it's all how we are able to look at this and know that as a human species, we do have the strength to survive, because the human species, they do what? They adapt. That's what we do. And from the beginning, before we got into these bodies, and the very first, as life form came about on the planet, it's been about surviving, yes, and it's been about building better bodies too. As environments change, and did the environment change because we change? I mean, it's, which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing. But either way, the evolution that has continued to occur, could not happen if the growth didn't happen. So why would it stop then with you? Think about that. If how human bodies became what they are, from, it's like build a bear, from building, us, from maybe call it, maybe we talk about amoeba, we talk about all these different, I can't even think of them right now. Anyway, life forms that are part of our growth, are part of what we became, of what we are at this point. And if you look at that, why then would you think that you should stop where you are? Wouldn't you think that growth will continue to happen? That we don't get that information. It's like this cutoff. Okay, well, we're here now, we're human beings. No, just like a tree branches out, nature wants us to keep branching out. And that's where this idea of superhuman becomes in, because okay, we're at a stage now where we've developed, where the brain has the new components to it, but it's developed enough now to be able to be utilized in a different way, in a more expansive way. And how all of that with mind can transform the body. We can transform anything, but now we have to work at moving past those programs of limitation to be able to give ourselves permission to become what we really technically already are, which is a more superhuman aspect of possibilities. Then we start to enter into these really greater levels. That's all part of the change. That's all part of that swing. The swing doesn't stop right here. It stops because you think so, because of these stories. But the swing doesn't stop there. We keep going and we keep going. So your little 65 or a little 67 or a little 85 is nothing. And it's not even a drop in time. It's nothing. It's like you're not even born yet. It's nothing. You go, well, but in a body. Yes, in a body too. Because a body is made up of everything. It's made up of all of it. So it has that same ability. Just think about when they slow down with those cameras, when they're able to slow it down to see the growth of a rose, or to be able to see particles that nothing is really together like that in this solid form, but it's really how fast everything is moving, like a movie, like a 24 frames per second sort of idea, to give you the illusion of everything being together. It's really fascinating. You start to be able to get a different perception of, wow. And we are moving about on what they call, ghost particles. We're really not touching anything like we think we are. We're not touching anything. It's a fascinating science. And maybe someday, they'll start to incorporate that more in school, so that the more you know as a child about this and about your capability, you will be able to really navigate, move this more and move through. And I just want to say synesthesia, things like that, are all part of it. Are people who have an accident and then suddenly they're mathematicians. It tells you, or being able to play the piano, it tells you that this is on tap. This thing we call a brain in there, which is our interface system that interacts with every potential moment, and it has access to all potential realities that you haven't even scratched the surface yet. So do more,
Yeah,
because why? Because you can.
yeah. Just the other day, I read an article. It said it was the first study of its kind, which I find hard to believe, but if it's true, it's a little bit sad. And that was a study about mental health and food. And of course, we have all the usual suspects: over
Mm-hmm.
processed foods, sugar, fructose, and
Mm-hmm.
on it goes. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I used to love when they suddenly come up with that. Studies show, like after billions of dollars, they go, studies show that fruits and vegetables are good for you.
yeah,
Studies show that if you don't eat McDonald's burgers at all, your health will be better. What?
yeah,
It's
it's a
crazy.
no-brainer.
Apparently, there is no brain in there. So for them, no brainer means something else. It means no brain. They're operating with no brain.
Mm.
But yeah, so yeah, all interesting.
Yeah, so, and then I thought, yeah, okay, what we call modern medicine, we have made good progress in terms of surgeries and
Hmm.
what is possible now if you had an horrible accident that they can
Hmm.
restore, let's say, parts of your face with plastic surgery and
Right,
what have
right,
you.
right.
So,
There's where it's necessary. I think, yeah,
yeah,
there are moments where absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
But when I look at what we would call chronic diseases like diabetes and cancer, and when we are
Hmm.
worse off than ever.
Hmm. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I think one of the main components is stress. It's the food and it's stress. It is it. We are in a pressure cooker, and it's reinforced by because media is so big and technology has expanded so much. People are exposed to more fear and more, more fear. Um, that I think that does put a lot of pressure on our our systems, our hormonal systems, and that can result, as is said about stress, that it shortens these telomeres. Um, that has everything to do with aging. The shorter they are, the more you age, and it's stress related. After billions of dollars, they're realizing that stress is the culprit. Yeah, it's stress is the culprit, and then we have more people with insomnia now, people who have a hard time sleeping, and the sleep cycle, that circadian rhythm, plays an absolutely major role in the production of this hormonal exchange that has to happen in these different levels of sleep, which we hear about REM sleep, but you don't really hear it. REM and non-REM sleep, REM and non-REM sleep that are happening all the time. They're pulsing. And in that pulsing is where this exchange of all kinds of hormones are that are necessary to the repair process of our physical bodies and of the stress of factor is essential. REM sleep is about repairing the emotional stress, those things that we go through. That's what REM sleep is for. Non-REM sleep is actually a deeper level of sleep, and that repairs the physical body. And so those things we don't understand. And when that is not happening, when we're not getting that right exchange of hormones, it really wreaks havoc. And so we end up with more the stress hormone, cortisol,
Mhm.
that is actually also being like spurted out. It's dispersed, and it has its specific in terms of how often it's like putting on a sprinkler and how it sprays out. But when you're not getting enough sleep, you end up producing, that's why you end up producing more cortisol. And then that starts to create even more problems, greater problems. And yes, not just the idea of weight, but now we've got since the mind couldn't be balanced like it should be, that's when you start to get extreme anxiety, and anxiety and a lot of these emotional, or not emotional, I want to say emotional, that too, but these mental health issues, it spirals mental health issues, because you have to have the mental part, the emotional part, and the physical part repaired every night. Every night needs to be repaired, and those hormones come in and make those necessary adjustments at different times of the night, which is why in Chinese medicine, they always talk about the schedule of the different organs throughout the night, sure, where they're most active and need to be repaired. Your digestive system needs to be repaired at a certain time, your lungs, your liver at a certain time. Everything is getting what it needs at a certain time. So you figure if that's the case and you're not getting enough rest, all that repair, when it starts to not happen, it's gonna wreak havoc. It's going to throw you off. And women, of course, our bodies are even more complicated, more complex with our hormones, estrogen and liver, which liver is a major player in the hormones for women. So when your liver is off, you're gonna find that your hormones most often are going to be off. Your liver needs to be cleansed. That means your liver is not processing. It's not dumping. It's not like it needs to. So this whole domino effect that happens. And I for me, I just found it necessary. If I'm doing this and I'm wanting to understand and move beyond the scam of of reality, those stories, then I need to understand more about how these things work so that it pulls me out of that. My brain changes because it realizes that I get the information, the truth, and then that changes. Then I don't have to live that particular story because I understand how this works. And then if that works that way, oh, then I have power. I can do these certain things. So I just want to say, as time approaches, that we, what was I going to tell you? I was going to tell you something about the power that you have to be able to make these changes. Just that quickly. Oh my gosh. Oh, then as soon as it comes, it just like what? Why did it do that? It came and then it's like zoom right back out. And it has to do with sleep. Every time I get ready to tell you, have you ever had that happen? It's like it's there and then it goes,
Mhm,
it goes
mhm,
away. But it
mhm.
has something to do. I was going to tell you something about sleep, and it just came and it just went. It's got to come back. It'll come back. But yeah, so I definitely, those things I kind of wanted to share. I didn't
Yeah,
plan on sharing it, but the question you asked kind of led into all
yeah.
these essential, these necessary. Oh, it's not the quantity of sleep per se, it's the quality. It's the
Yeah.
quality of sleep. And now you understand what I mean by quality of sleep. Which is what I've described. That's the quality of sleep. So yeah, you could sleep 4 hours in a certain period where you did get your brain, you did get a chance to go through those cycles of sleep and you wake up and you're refreshed. You can sleep for hours and you still wake up tired, you're exhausted, you didn't go into deep sleep, you didn't really access either one of those necessary realms. And that's how you wake up exhausted and tired because your body and did not get to rest, and neither did your mind.
How can we yeah, let's say detect that we don't get the
Oh, you'll
right
know because you're
quality of
tired
sleep?
and you're exhausted.
Okay. Okay.
If you wake up and you're just really tired, if you're dragging in the day, now you could go to the doctor and the doctor will say, you've got, your thyroid issues or whatever. But from what I'm seeing, and of course, based on my studies now, what I'm really seeing how that could actually lead back to the sleep. Now, I guess what we could ask is, how are you sleeping? What do you feel like when you wake up? We could just go right to that because that's going to throw a thyroid off. It's going to throw all that stuff off. What kind of sleep are you getting? Well, I go to bed at, what time? And then they tell you, well, how do you sleep? What time are you waking up at night? Because whenever the time you wake up at night, most often has to do with the organ that is most active at that time. If it's out of balance, yes, you're waking up more. It's like 1 o'clock, I think, is the liver. Um, but you're waking up at these times. And, don't stress. What you do is you lay in the bed, never get up and watch TV, never get up and do any of that. Just be there. Just be there. And there's a count that some people do that helps them to go back to sleep. You know, they count backwards and add 3 because it's supposed to throw the brain off. It's just too much. You know, for some people, it works really, really well because your brain, it tires out trying to -3 is basically what happens. So, so yes, so that's what I wanted to share. That's what I wanted to share. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And now it's
So,
shadow,
and
and I was
if
like 9. Mhm.
and if people would like to, um, step deeper into the subject of how we can delete our old stories that are
Mhm.
blocking us, they can contact you.
They can contact me. I also now do what is known as voice mapping or evox. I do have that technology now, which is incredible. It's reframing perception, but yeah, this is really something. And it does. I've just seen so much happen. It does help people so much to reframe a perception about a particular thing, or even um, transgenerational, things that you've inherited. So I do provide that. So people can get on my website to check that out. That one is Neuroradical, NEURORADICAL.com. And you can always reach me. TheRealSoniaBarrett.com is my website, my other website, my regular website. And they can email me, SONIABARR @yahoo.com.
Yeah. And neuroradical.com is the other. Does the real Sonia Barrett, does that website also lead to
Yeah,
new?
there's a link on there. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a link on there for it. I have to update it with some of these things, but the neuroradical is the one where for neurofeedback that I provide. But I'm able to do evox voice mapping remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm able to do that remotely. So yeah, no matter where you are in the world, I'm able to do it. And I'll let you know how. You just have to have what they call the hand cradle for us to be able to work remotely to be able to do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for your insights, Sonia. It was a
Mm.
pleasure as always. And
Thank you for having me on. And yeah, I look forward to doing it again. And maybe the next time all of that will be over. So so
and I
I'll be
wish
able
you
to.
all the best for your dissertation.
Oh, thank you so
I'm
much.
pretty sure you will pass with flying colors.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks to your audience. Yeah. And I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. It's always such a pleasure. I love your hair long too, by the way. I like it.
Thank
Yeah. It
you.
looks really, really good. Yeah. It looks like color always looks good on you. So, all
Okay.
right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.